Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Yoshino. This is a tier 10 coal cruiser that I traditionally haven't liked very much, but I gotta say, I had a really good time playing this ship. Haven't played it in a very long time, and I was very surprised at how comfortable it was to play. The ship just fits the meta perfectly. It might be a little boring because of that, but if you're looking for a relaxing, heavy cruiser, battle cruiser to play, this is going to be it, I think. I think this is a really solid option for coal. Tier 10, of course, means that we have a little bit longer range games. And you're going to see throughout these matches I have to show for you that Yoshino's range allows it to play back with the battleships and still be effective. The guns hit very hard. The HE here is incredibly powerful. Large guns, a lot of pen, a lot of alpha, and a ton of fire chance too. It's like 30% fire chance. Something like a Montana has a 35% fire chance, so considering our reload as well on these guns, this thing is very good at farming down battleships. The damage output is pretty nuts as far as the range is concerned as well. I think I averaged around 200 to 210,000 damage in I think I played 7 or 8 games, something like that. Just monster games out of this ship. I had a good time. What can I say? Not necessarily going to be the best pick for everyone. Of course, if you're looking to brawl, this is not going to be the ship for you. The armor here is not great. We have a lot of HP though to make up for that, but pushing into, say, a couple Ohios, maybe not the best idea, but we'll try and make it work. Overmatch, of course, is going to hit this thing very hard. 30 mil armor everywhere, upper belt, deck armor. The bow and stern are worse too, by the way, but for the most part, it's 30 mil armor you're dealing with here. And whenever you're not facing a battleship with 406mm guns or less, it's going to be a problem. But you have a lot of HP still, right? We have over 65,000 HP on this ship. And depending on your build, you can get up to 5 heals. So the ship is relatively tanky still, even though it doesn't have the best armor. It's tanky at range, I guess I should say. You're not going to play it like a Napoli up close. You're not going to be bouncing or shattering shells as much like maybe a Moskva might or other battle cruisers might. That overmatch is going to hurt, right? But we still have a lot of HP is the thing. Speaking about the torpedoes, you got a couple different options here. You got the 20s, which of course I'm running in this one. And you also have 12-kilometer torps as an option here, which is nice to have, although I think Yoshino is probably going to play farther back than that. So typically you're going to run the 20s. They're mostly zoning torps. And honestly, I think one of the big mistakes I made while playing this ship was over-relying on the torps, or perhaps spending too much time trying to make the torpedoes work, or even just launching the torpedoes. Because the angles aren't great. You see how the one torpedo angle kind of faces forward, the other one faces back on each side. So you got to go very broadside to shoot both torpedoes from the side. And that means you're spending time not shooting these guns, which are, again, amazing. These guns are really solid. Very fortunate there to not eat citadels from that enemy Ohio, but I will take it. This ship has an above water citadel. It's pretty big, so anytime you go broadside, you can expect to take some pretty big hits. We'll look at the armor viewer later, of course, but you typically want to play angled. The other problem with using the torpedoes a lot is wanting to swap sides, right? You want to get the torps off on either side of your ship. Well, then your guns have to turn all the way around. And that's a bit of a problem considering you have so much damage potential here out of these main guns that wasting it essentially on using these torpedoes all the time, I think is a mistake. And so you're going to see that throughout these games that, again, I'm probably using the torpedoes too much. If they're up on the side that you're farming from, go ahead and use them. But I didn't really hit all that many torpedoes, and I still had some great games with these guns. Playing with your teammates, of course, is going to be great with this ship. I think that's, again, one of the massive strengths here is that you don't have to force any sort of gameplay on this ship. If your team is playing back and passive on a flank, you don't have to play at closer ranges because you have the range to play at those longer distances. Shell velocity is also excellent here. So it's not like a closer range ship. Let's say, I mean, we looked at Brisbane, Napoli, but Salem is also going to be one where we're going to have a bit of a tougher time in those more passive games because we just don't have the range to play in a lot of those matches without pushing forward. And as soon as you're the first person forward, you're going to get focused down by the enemies. That's just kind of how it works. Sometimes I'll complain about shoot the PQ guy, but let's be honest, I'm often playing further up than my teammates, and it's very natural to shoot the guy closest to you. That's how it works. So anytime you're playing a ship with less range, that is something you're going to have to deal with. And that's just a big strength of the Yoshino here. I think this ship's a little boring, personally. I had a good time with it, and I think it's a really nice, chill, relaxing ship. But anytime I was looking for opportunities to push in, I just really felt like I was putting this ship in a bad position. This is one where we want to find the enemy's flank that they're pushing on and then go kite them. That's really the gameplay style here with Yoshino. Early game, you can play whatever flank you spawned on. I think that's great. But typically by that 5-minute mark, or sometimes even earlier, you're going to know which flank the enemy's stronger on, and you probably want to go over to that side of the map. In one of the matches, I'll show you guys later, the spotter plane here allows you to almost shoot anywhere on the map. You basically have battleship levels of range in a cruiser with very strong, consistent HE. It feels good. Dealing with a Des Moines here, he's going to go behind the island. It makes a lot of sense. And we're leaving this flank, right? I don't want to be pushing 2 Ohios in their spawn. Again, this is a ship that obeys the rules, I guess, the standard operating procedure, like I mentioned in the Napoli video the other day, where you don't want to push enemy spawns because then it's very easy for the enemy team to catch you in a crossfire in open water, and you're going to die very quickly, especially in a Yoshino. Our team here is losing this side of the map, losing our spawn, so I want to come back and help. Dealing with this Marceau here, trying to help on the Ohio, do take him out with a fire, and turning our guns. You can see they're a little slow still. I do even have grease the turrets, grease the gears, I think is what it's called on the commander, and they're still feeling a little slow. And Marceau jukes me. Very nice dodge there at close range from the Marceau, although he does end up going down. And we're nearly at 200,000 damage. Very nice game so far, but you notice how the people who did push our spawn are now finished off, right? We want to be dealing with those ships very quickly because it's pretty easy to take them out. Anytime you push someone's spawn, it's very easy to die in those situations. And now we get some nice cross shots on this Kurfürst and this Des Moines. Really need to take these guys out. This ship is relatively quick, so flanking is an option on this thing. Surprisingly great concealment as well, considering the gun caliber. The AP here is solid, if not a little inconsistent. I think it's really great against cruisers. Typically, though, against battleships, I'm probably just going to stick with the high explosive. There are times where the AP can do well, but given the fire chance of this ship and how many fires you can land and how much damage those fires will do to battleships at this tier, it's a lot of opportunity cost lost to shoot the armor piercing, which is inherently more RNG dependent. Even though I just talked about RNG for fires, we all know how AP can work, right? Where it's going to overpen, it's going to miss, it's going to shatter. You're going to get unlocked dispersion, and then you're going to hit areas of the ship that just don't do much damage. The GK and that Des Moines died to my teammates, so we're going to skip forward a little bit. The longer reload can be a little bit cumbersome in situations like that, where you're trying to maximize your damage output, but also finish off enemy ships. The extra range here, I mean, look, we're shooting at 20 kilometers into this Ohio here. I think it's around 25, 26 kilometers with the spotter plane up. And this is with reload mod. You could get close to 30 kilometers with range mod. Don't recommend that build, by the way, but you can get that kind of range. This game is coming down to the wire, though. And if we can't kill this Sherman, we basically lose this game. We're very lucky that our friendly Shima got a torp on him. I'm going to try and hit him with some HE at 15, 16 kilometers here. And, well, our GK actually gets a shot off as well. So if we land a good hit, GK lands a good hit, we're still in this game. And the Kurfürst does. Finishes him off. Ohio's low now, too. Our Kurfürst goes down, but an excellent parting salvo gives us the opportunity to come back in this one. Yoshino, maybe not known as a carry ship, but you can have carry games. I think it has to be in games that last long, though. Notice that we're over 15 minutes into this game. There's only 4 minutes left, so it needs to have time to have that battle impact. We don't have the radars, and we certainly are a longer range ship, right? We need that time to let that damage stack up, and it certainly has here. 241,000 damage so far. Not going to shoot the Yamato here. I'm still looking for that Ohio. That's their win condition really here, is if that Ohio gets into the A cap. So I'm actually going to torp as if he's going to go towards A, not his last known position. I'm pretty sure he grounded on that island to avoid some of my blind fire salvos, which was a smart play. Now to deal with this Yamato here, bow in, not the best position to be in, and Yamato gets trolled by battleship dispersion. It feels good to be on this end of it, to be honest with you, but as someone who plays battleships, I feel your pain, Mr. Yamato. That is brutal. Pushing forward though, trying to get this cap. Our Shima's done a great job to go get C and spot this Yamato. But I really need to deal with this Ohio. That's the key here. And I don't want to give him time to get away, to get into the A cap and leave. And we do manage to catch him just briefly. And my torps are looking good actually for him. But I'm going to take the blind fire just to try to make sure and take him out. And we do with our guns. I think those torps would have been good though. Those are some pretty spicy predictive torps. But that is going to secure the win because our Shimakaze is going to torp out this Yamato yet. And that's going to be a solid comeback. And in a Yoshino of all things. Not a ship that's usually associated with that, but I will take it. The guns are just so strong on this thing. If you have these longer matches, which I know don't happen all that often, this ship is an absolute monster. Nearly 260,000 damage. Wither, of course, Arsonist, all that good stuff. Feels great. Now on to the armor piercing. Here's just a couple examples in this match of, in North Carolina, we definitely have the pen here to deal with him at these ranges. Great dispersion, landing under the rear turret. And I guess it's a little high, a little low. You're still not going to have the consistency out of the AP, unfortunately. As far as accuracy goes, it's great, right? When you're coming to high explosive shots, right? You're hitting battleships, they're massive, so you're going to hit a lot of shells on battleships with your HE. And you don't really care where you hit for the most part, because any hits you get, you can get fires. But if you're swapping to armor piercing, you need to hit citadels and full pens, I guess. But really, you're looking for citadels. And at these ranges, I think around 10 kilometers, I can start to get citadels on Montana. Maybe even a little further than that. But around this range, I should be 10, 11 kilometers. I should have enough pen here with these guns. And we're going to try and citadel this Monty. Also, I want you to realize how good the armor is if people don't overmatch 30 millimeters, right? We're just going to charge down this Montana. And there's really not a lot he can do. His only option really is to aim for our bow and try and bow citadel us. That's really his only chance. Also using our torpedo widespread to launch that very farthest forward torp at a steeper angle. So if you don't want to give flat broadside to shoot your torpedoes, but you still want to just send them out to maybe apply some pressure, you can use widespread to get a better angle towards the front of your ship. Just a little trick you can use in any ship with torpedoes, really. This looks a little better into the rear turrets. That's really where I'm aiming here, considering the angle he's at. And unfortunately, we only get shatters. Unfortunate on the dispersion front of things. The AP can do some work. I did have some good salvos, but I do want to mention this, that just spamming HE can be a viable strategy, and a very good one, just because of the way the game works with armor piercing. There's a double fire from our main guns. Our secondaries actually lit the stern fire there. So we have 3 fires ticking on this Monty permanently. So maybe going to get a little greedy here for the 4th fire and go directly for the bow. And of course we get it, right? Poor Monty, man. And the whole while we're just auto-bouncing his shells because we're keeping ourselves angled and he can't do anything to 30 mil armor. It's strong, man. It's really, really strong until you're fighting things that overmatch 30 millimeters at these closer ranges, right? That's where you got to play a little further back. But if you see opportunities, this thing can push. This thing can apply a lot of pressure. You're also going to be a lot safer when people are kiting away from you. It's much, much better to go towards their stern rather than matching their angle. You notice how I'm pushing kind of behind his ship? It forces him to turn more broadside to actually shoot me with all of his guns. And he's not likely to want to do that. So we do get ourselves not quite the kill, but a ton of damage off that Monty. And here we go. We're on a flank. We're way out of the battle now, right? No chance we can impact the rest of this game, right? Well, no, with the spotter plane, we can go shoot this Carl Johan. The range is ridiculous, man. Like, look at how far away from the remaining battle I am. And yet we're still able to shoot, right? Now, you could use that as an excuse to just play at the back the whole time, but it is useful for when you're pushing on a flank like this. Here we go. There's some AP doing some good work into a cruiser. And that's where I say I want to shoot the AP into broadside cruisers, cruisers making mistakes, and less so into battleships, is typically how I've been going about it. Now, we're low health here. This is a situation where we're actually going to do pretty good work. Ibuki going broadside here. AP again into him. And Torps coming through. Get a nice citadel there on Ibuki. And just barely dodge these torpedoes. This is a tricky game. Trying to push this Ibuki, trying to push the Shimakaze. You're going to find yourself in plenty of games like this if you're playing Yoshino at the back of the map, where you're going to lose games just on caps and kills, where your team just sits at the back of the map with you. And sometimes you will have to push out of that. And this ship can do it. It's not really that comfortable here, but it can do it. Again, notice there's not that 30 mil overmatching battleship that we got to deal with. We just have an Iwami here, so we can angle to some of his AP. He's actually shooting HE for the most part, so we're doing okay there. Hydro is up because I don't really know where that Shimakaze is. And very close match too. Also coming down to the late game here, right? Only 5 minutes left in this match. Here's a situation where maybe we could be shooting armor piercing, but after a few of those games where the AP into battleships just isn't doing a whole lot and we're getting consistent fires out of our guns when we're using HE, I just want to stick to HE. It's just a little more consistent. Okay, here come the Shimakaze torpedoes now. Can we dodge these yet? Well, I'm not sure we're skinny enough actually to fit through this gap, so I'm actually going to rush to dump my torpedoes out. And we live. This is not typical Yoshino experience, to be honest with you. It's a big ship that's a little clumsy, that typically is going to eat a lot of torpedoes. But I was pretty proud of those torpedo beats. Pretty happy with that result, getting through there. And we're still alive somehow on such a low HP here. Still living. I do leave the cap here, unfortunately, but I do value my life here and the ability to maneuver yet. So trying to take out this Iwami and kind of interested in pushing this Shimakaze. I don't know where he's at. Typically, he should be around the H1 square, maybe the I1 square, right off my broadside here. But hey, maybe he's in front of us. And in fact, he is. So we finally catch up with him. Always feels good to find yourself proxy spotting or normal spotting a enemy Torp DD that's been torturing you and your team for most of the game. So feels good to finish him off here. Unfortunately, I don't think our team ended up winning this one. We just lost too much map control, and the rest of this game, well, they have 2 DDs left alive, right? It's pretty hard to deal with that, so we do end up losing this one. But still pretty solid battle impact and a good example of this ship can still push into DDs, into cruisers, not so much into overmatched battleships. That's the one thing, right? You can't really push that, but there are opportunities that you can look for to push with this thing. All right, on to the next clip. Second last game I have to show for you. Well, this I'm not really going to show the full game because it wasn't really a very good match, but I decided to run a full lighthouse build, including rudder shift instead of concealment in the upgrade slot, just to see how it felt. And it actually wasn't too bad. The extra HE alpha out of heavy HE is pretty nice. And in fact, I might recommend taking that just because the concealment is so good base that extra damage output could be worthwhile, especially with how good the HE pen is. You're not shattering very often. The full lighthouse, though, maybe not. I think we do want some concealment. I think I was running no concealment at all, actually. I was running outnumbered and top grade gunner, as well as rudder shift instead of concealment in the upgrades, like I said. So the rudder shift's nice. Surprisingly maneuverable ship, actually. It's the rudder shift that's so slow. As soon as you get this ship in a full left or full right turn, it actually turns pretty well. It's just that rudder shift time. So this game, we're actually going to get upwards of 3 million potential damage in a Yoshino. And again, anytime there's a battleship that doesn't overmatch you, well, you can turn in and maybe try and deal with them. Take some damage there, but nowhere near as much as it would have been to, say, an Ohio or anything else that would overmatch 30. So yeah, up over 3 million potential damage, not too bad. I don't recommend that build, though. Certainly very uncomfortable to play. I started this video saying this ship is comfortable. Well, running lighthouse, full lighthouse, very uncomfortable. But hey, some of you are probably good enough to make it work, and you know who you are probably. But for me, I actually enjoyed the mostly concealment, maybe taking heavy HE, and that ended up being quite good. And this is the last clip I have to show for you guys. And it's just an example of high tier games, especially at the beginning, right? Look at this match. There's battleships along the C-D line for our team and the H, maybe the G line, but mostly the H line for the enemy team. That is far. That's 20 kilometers plus range. And that's very typical for high tier these days, especially with super ships, right? And we're still able to be effective. That's the key here. If you're looking for a cruiser that allows you to play in these games and not feel like I can't do anything without pushing up, and as soon as I push up, I'm just gonna die, this could be a really good option for you. You know, you're not making the credits that a tier 9 premium would make, but there's still benefits to having these tier 10 premiums, or special ships as they are, that allow you to swap commanders to them freely, that allow you to have, I believe it's reduced repair costs as well, so there are benefits still over a traditional normal tier 10. And Yoshino's not bad. I think I'll play it actually more than I have in the past, which is 0, right? I really haven't played this ship because I always found it, at least in the past, to just not be my speed, where it plays too far back, it's too campy, it's too compromised when you try and push in. And I guess the meta has evolved to a point where I'm playing a lot of ships to just never push in anyway. So suddenly I'm playing this ship how it's supposed to be played, and I'm having a great time with it. Because I have to try and play every other ship that way too, at least at the beginning of games, right? The first 5 minutes, maybe 7-8 minutes of a game, you're always playing like this. It's just very, very common. And we're back here with our battleships who are, you know, kiting away, playing passive, and we're still able to make it work. And I think that's really important to point out in this ship's favor. Even if it is maybe a little bit on the boring side for some of those closer range matches, I think taking this ship into something like ranked is not a great idea. I think it can work, but there's much, much better options where I'm not too happy to see a Yoshino on my side in a ranked game, to be honest with you. Typically because I know they're probably not going to do a whole lot, is the thing. But if you are going to play it in ranked, try to get closer with better concealment, running a mostly conceal build, because the guns, well, the guns slap DDs. That was nearly 9,000 damage into that Shimakaze. So it can work. And last thing here, this Sejong here, smoking up broadside, well, we got AP for him. And the AP into cruisers is excellent. Very, very good. And that's going to do it for the gameplay side of this video. We'll look at it in port, again, the build, and talk about it some more. But Yoshino surprised me. I was kind of dreading going into this one to play it, but I had a really good time. So I think we're going to start with the armor here, just because I've talked about it so much. It's a little bit compromised. That 30 mil plating, not so good at tier 10. Although there are situations where it can work, as I showed you. Typically, you're going to get overmatched very quickly through this and lose a lot of HP. We got a lot of health, so that's nice, but you're still going to die rather quickly. Especially if you go broadside and get greedy for all of your torpedoes. That is a large citadel. That's massive. So you're going to take a ton of damage if you're not angling properly. Even with overmatch, you're not going to get citadel too often if you're staying angled. It's just going to be a lot of full pens because this should be auto bouncing if you're angling properly. But still, it's a lot. And anytime you go broadside, you're going to get absolutely crushed with this thing. It gets hit very, very hard. But as for a build, this is kind of the build that I kind of settled on towards the end. Initially wasn't taking heavy HE and sap, going more full concealment. I was trying Pack-a-Punch and Fill the Tubes, I think, and also not taking Last Stand to get those skill points, giving me like 11.7 detection and a little more damage out of my torps. But as I've talked about, I think mostly the torpedoes are just kind of there for you to use when it's up on the side and angle that you're firing from. I don't think you should be relying on them too much because the guns are just so good. You've got amazing reload and damage and fire chance out of these guns. They're very, very strong. So taking heavy HE and sap I think makes a lot of sense as well, since we're shooting a lot of HE. We got a lot of HE pen, so we're guaranteeing that extra 10% damage output for the most part. And I usually think about a ship being comfortable in terms of the difference between the main gun firing range and its detection. That kind of allows you to, let's say you get spotted by a DD, well, you're spotted at 13.7 from that destroyer, and let's say an enemy battleship shoots at you from longer ranges. Well, here at least we do have the range to shoot back. That allows us to continue to play the game and not feel like we're locked out by that extra spotting. And if the ship has less range, well, the difference here being closer, let's say we had 17 kilometers of range. That is somewhat typical for some other tier 10 cruisers. Well, suddenly it's a little bit less comfy to play that ship. You feel like you're locked out of more matches where you're not able to really play the game. Yoshino doesn't feel like that. That's why I think it's so comfy, I guess, to play. Running a full lighthouse where I was running top grade and outnumbered, not taking concealment, little bit uncomfortable there. And I was actually also running steering gears too, so our concealment was awful there. But I think this is a reasonable place to start with a build. And if you're finding it too uncomfortable with the 13.7 detection, definitely remove heavy HE and SAP, and you get much better detection. It's very, very comfortable to play then. But that's going to do it for Yoshino today. I'm surprised I had a good time with this ship. But I think it comes down to the playstyle you have to run these days is so passive. Even in ships that, for the most part, I'm trying to push in and play close in, I'm not doing that in the first 5 minutes. I got to wait for the game to progress for me to start to push in. Napoli's a bit of an exception, of course. But for the most part, I'm playing that passive role early anyway. So now I'm not feeling like I'm missing out when I'm playing Yoshino, where I felt like that a little bit before, where I was kind of forcing myself to play further back than I would otherwise want to when I played Yoshino in the past. And this is years ago, by the way. This is a long time ago. But just because I haven't really played this ship much recently. But hey, looking back, looking at these ships now in the current year, 2024, Yoshino's excellent. It was always excellent at longer range games, but now we're forced into that these days, really not a lot of opportunity at close range, then Yoshino just kind of slides in perfectly into this meta. It's very, very good. So if you're looking into it, don't feel bad about getting this as a tier 10 coal ship. But I'll talk more about the differences and comparisons between these higher tier coal ships in a future ranking video. So look forward to that. But for now, thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.